Okay, so good to see everybody. And Michael, whenever you're ready, if you want to get started, if anybody has a conversation you want to start, we can do that briefly, but we should get into our talk.
Anybody have any burning conversation? Okay. So I thought today we'll do a little something different, do a little guided connectedness meditation. And it's a form of loving kindness meditation. It's a metta. And so I'll read the meditation, and if you kindly repeat to yourselves in the same language or your own language, the words or the thoughts, and then we'll sort of get on the same page around these thoughts and around radiating loving kindness, radiating like the sun. So kindly find yourself comfortable, connect with that part of you that connects with whatever it is that connects to the earth. Feel free to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Find your breath. Find your breath in your body. Find your body in this very present moment. And so repeat to yourself, I am open to my connectedness with all things. I am connected with my body and spirit. May I be at peace. I am connected with the most beloved in my life. May we be at peace. I am connected with friends and colleagues. May we be at peace. I am connected with those I see casually and in passing. May we be at peace. I am connected with those who have angered me and I have angered. May we be at peace. I am connected with all humanity, dead and living and unborn. May we be at peace. I am connected with visible animals in the world. May we be at peace. I am connected with animal life, microscopic and unseen, teeming in the natural world. May we be at peace. I am connected with animal life, dead, living, and unborn. May we be at peace. I am connected with living plants of the world. May we be at peace. I am connected with plant life, microscopic and unseen, teeming in the natural world. May we be at peace. I am connected with all plant life, dead and living and unborn. I am connected with all inanimate things, from the clothing closet to my body to the stars in the farthest galaxies. May we be at peace. I am connected with unknown forms of matter and life and spirit. May we be at peace. I accept my connections with all things, and I am open to oneness with all. When you're ready, you may open your eyes into the present moment, poised as we are for this good work.
Thank you,
Bernie?
Michael. Who's up tonight? It's Bernie, isn't it? Bernie's microphone is muted.
Not going to teach much with my microphone muted. So thank you. It always does that.
You speak up a little, Bernie.
Am I too soft? Okay. Always. Do you hear me now? Is my voice clearer?
It's a little better.
A little better. I want it to be a lot better. This
that's
better? Better? Because
You sound fine to me.
okay. Okay. So before I start, just a little story. When I was earlier this year, I was donating blood and I went over to the student union at Towson University. Now they call it Towson University. And I was looking for the room where the Red Cross was. And I stumbled across a room labeled meditation room. So this is the progress we've made over the past generation. Is now students take it as a matter of course that they would have a meditation room at their university, which is something which would not have happened when I was in school. So little by little, minds get changed.
Well, I think that's a good point. Michael, is that happening at George Mason?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes we call them quiet meditation and prayer spaces. So they open things up for the for the Muslim folks to pray and folks just to come and do contemplation. They're multi-purpose spaces, but that's what they're meant for. Yeah. So there's probably 10 of them at George Mason across the 4 campuses.
So
These are
there's-
quiet rooms. You're muted.
Yeah, they're quiet spaces. They're for most of them labeled quiet meditation or quiet meditation and prayer spaces. Yeah. Some of them are enclosed and have doors, and some of them are like the ends of hallways that have been co-opted and room dividers put up. Carpets or rugs on the floor or seats or something like that.
well, really good. Well, Bernie, that's really great that you noticed that.
Well, it took me a long time to find where the blood drive was, but I was very happy to see that. Sometimes you wonder if kids these days are interested in meditation, but it seems that they are. So that's great. Okay. Now, I don't have a page number because I'm going from my electronic version, but we are a little ways into.
We're at page 103 in the book.
Okay, we're a little bit into the section called non-dual realization.
Correct.
And I think we start with the paragraph that says relying on a guru.
We can start there. Yes, we went over it briefly, but didn't really analyze it.
Okay. So, yeah, I think, well, that might have been the last paragraph we did. So the text goes, relying on the guru means that you receive it by pleasing a realized guru. Through your own merit means that wisdom comes to those predisposed through former training. Okay, so how do you please the guru? Anybody want to say something about that?
Practice what they teach.
Practice what they teach. Okay. Sometimes they talk about pleasing the guru by offering your body, speech, and mind. Does anybody have anything to say about offering body, speech, and mind to the guru?
Do you mean doing it in person, or is it something that's done, in your own space, and that, but you're mindful of the guru when you do that?
Well, what do you think, Lance? What do you think? Maybe both. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say both. I would say that we don't always have the opportunity to be with the guru one-on-one, but,
Sure.
but we can still, be, taking, showing refuge or showing, respect to the Lama, from afar. And I
Sure.
think that's quite valid. And I think that when we do have the chance to meet with the Lama, that we talk to them about what our practice is, that we approach them,
Okay.
is the way I look at it, and not to wait for them to approach us. And, not every one of our teachers is necessarily going to be our guru per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I've made, for my own self, I've made, how should you say, choices.
Sure. So what do you think is the difference between a spiritual teacher and a guru? Is there any difference? They're just two words that mean the same thing, or is a guru something different than a spiritual teacher?
Does anybody got a comment about that?
In the Tantra perspective, you have Samaya with the guru, your guru.
If you take tantric vows.
Yeah.
Right. So the guru would be the person you take tantric vows with, or what?
I think a spiritual teacher can can be impactful and useful without necessarily being embedded in the Dharma. But I believe that a guru has to. I think the meaning of guru means that this is a being that's rooted in the true Dharma.
Okay, so a spiritual teacher could be from another tradition, but a guru has to be from your tradition. Okay, that's a good point, probably. Okay, so merit means wisdom comes from predisposed through former training. What kind of former training? Former training in meditation, or other kinds of formal training as well?
You meditation and conduct,
Conduct? What's conduct?
like ethical behavior,
Okay.
doing the particular practices.
You mean keeping the precepts, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? And any other kind of training is important besides conduct and meditation?
Well, the thing that, the guru to me is someone who we share. They open themselves up to us, and to me in particular in this case, and I open up into them.
Sure.
And they have an understanding of, because I've opened up to them, that they have an understanding of what I'm doing, where I'm at, so to speak, in my
Okay.
state of mind, in my life, and so on.
So more like a guide then, a guide. That's how I would put it.
Well, okay. But that, to me, that's part of the guru, and the guru doesn't have to be so rigid that it's on on say a Drikung Dharma Surya path or something like
Okay.
that. You know, it doesn't, it can, because the guru would take your whole life experience into consideration and would look at you holistically.
Okay.
You mentioned, Bernie, you mentioned the using the body, speech, and mind. You know, I think I think it pleases the guru when we use our body, speech, and mind as vehicles or vessels that that might assist others on the bodhisattva path. So I see sharing the body as being generosity, sharing what we consider ours, sharing our own, you know, sharing a window air conditioner or some food, or some compassion, or some thinking about the Dharma, something that we've heard that we think someone else might find useful. So I think that's a practice also, practicing sharing the Dharma wisely. And I think you definitely can get some merit by wisely turning other people on to some of the ideas that are going to move them along.
We're talking about practicing generosity then generally. The different kinds of generosity that are mentioned. Offering goods, offering protection, and offering spiritual teaching. Okay. So
What do the other guys think?
okay, I don't know. Everybody please.
You know, Curtis, what do you think? Tom, what do you think?
Who is the guru and what is spiritual training?
I defer to Lama Thomas.
You don't have any thoughts on it then?
I'm not sure I have any yet.
Well, it says right here, a realized guru. I think if you're around a realized guru, I think they will know the medicine that you need to further your practice, to move you along the path. And I don't know if it's necessarily a completely realized guru, but a person that has tremendous compassion and wisdom will also realize this as well. To please them, you know, there's nothing more, I guess, pleasing than to actually, like Pete said, to practice what's been taught to you. I think that's the highest form of gift that you can give a guru. And the merits are, to me, putting yourself aside, putting your practice aside, putting whatever you have to do aside to help others. You know, because you know your practice will always be there. But you know, to actually practice Buddhism, to help others, to put others before yourself. And that's what merit, that's where merit really actually comes from.
Bernie and Pete in particular, but everybody in general. How important is it to ask your guru or ask someone to be your guru?
It's an interesting question. Generally, I think asking somebody to be your guru is not a good idea. Generally, the trouble with asking somebody to be your guru is that you don't understand yourself yet, and you don't understand yet what it means to take somebody as a guru. It's kind of a fantasy that you've going through in your head. You think that this is like a shortcut to enlightenment. So I think it's better for the relationship to develop organically rather than specifically at a moment ask a person to be your guru. I don't think it necessarily backfires, but I think a lot of people who ask somebody to be their guru really isn't ready yet to have a guru. At least that's been my experience.
Pete, what do you think about that?
I think if you have a guru and you're paying attention and practicing and learning from them and so forth, you can come in your heart to regard them as your guru. And then basically just follow them as best you can, follow their teachings. And if they make sense, if there's some reason that they're not qualified or they're not for you, then you know that, but basically just to do the practices and so forth. I know we talked about this before in the Jugon Kagyu. I asked my main Lama and he says, you can call him your main Lama, but I said, could you be my root Lama at one point? And he said, take one of the lineage masters to be your root Lama. And so that's how I view it, but he's still my main Lama.
Okay, let's go to the next paragraph.
So if I could
Yeah.
just make it, wait a minute, if I could just,
You want to make one last comment? Okay, go ahead.
no, I just, so it seems as though it's a relative thing.
Okay. Explain, please.
Well, there's six of us here and each six of us, have some varying, point of view about this. And they all make sense. There's a practicality to each one of these things that we've all said. And it seems to be, so it falls under the category of not being an absolute thing, that all these things can work in their own way. And that so we should view it as a relative mindfulness, a relative feature of our practice.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about lots of stuff, I'm sure, but
I'm ready to
certainly
jump
about
in.
the guru too. Okay. Next.
Curtis wants to say something.
Can you
Okay.
hear me, Bernie?
Sure.
I thought this for a while. In the West, of course, we've been trafficking in Eastern ideas for a while, but culturally, we're very imprinted by the West, and lots of people are very imprinted by the West because they haven't even started, getting an Eastern sensibility. But in the West, the closest thing to guru is master disciple. And there's really only one relationship in the West that fits that model. It's Jesus and his disciples. Now you can talk about, say, St. Francis and his disciples, but it's kind of like that special. Most people in the West don't have a master disciple relationship, much less a relationship with a master who's like a savior figure, a real avatar. So people in the West bring heavy expectations to this master or this guru thing. They expect them to, a lot of people are expecting them to save them. We'll talk about pressure. If you're female, I think, it's not really overt, but it's Mary Magdalene that's the only model for, one of the models for a relationship with Jesus, which is a relationship. So I just think this is psychologically where a lot of people come from. When people talk about having a guru, watch out. For a lot of those people, psychologically are expecting that person to save them until they get a more mature relationship. And this whole idea of watching the guru, checking him out for a long time and all that, they skip right over that stuff way too much, and it all blows up in their face. So I think that's important, because subtly, we might be bringing some of that expectation, to fully realized master. There're just not enough of them around. And I can have an individual relationship that might have more impact on me spiritually with any one of you guys right here. If I said, please help me, I need a teacher, than I could if I'm I'm just going to make it up, thinking of Garchen Rinpoche. I can't have an individual relationship with him the way I can, if I say, Bernie, I need help, will you be my spiritual teacher? Anyway, those are just some thoughts.
Okay, thank you. I think that's interesting point of view. Yeah, the guru relationship has blown up a lot. There's been a lot of scandals around the whole thing, and a lot of people have behaved badly, and a lot of students have had misunderstandings of what that relationship should be. So I think your point is well taken. So thank you.
I think given the being informed by some of the videos that we were able to watch, I think at the time, around the time of this writing, there were probably a greater availability of realized masters around, because the sort of aware population was relatively local. And it seemed like, almost every town had a lama, or every village had a lama, and they'd come together, and, and then you'd have a whole bunch of lamas in every sort of province or state. So it looked, if I could find a realized lama by doing a 5-hour, donkey trip, then I might be taking that road trip pretty frequently. But yeah, I think it was easier when this was written to accomplish that.
But now you've got Google and Zoom. You don't need your donkey. You can just connect to your teacher over Zoom.
I'd like to mention something. I think there's a kind of a give and take, back and forth communication with one's guru, and that you have to allow, like Bernie was talking about, an organic process. You have to allow for development and growth over time as you put the practices into place and communicate your experiences and so forth. And the thought that comes to my mind is, like, if you wanted to plant a tree, you can't plant a sapling and then say, okay, where's the tree? Okay, I expect 6 months from now, I'm going to have an oak tree in my yard because I just planted a sapling. People don't do that, but when they spiritually, sometimes they may think they can do that.
Okay, well, let me contribute one last thought. That's my thought. I think you should have respect for everybody who helps you. And so it's not just like a guru-disciple relationship. Whenever anybody helps you, naturally there should be some feeling of respect, and maybe devotion is too strong a word, but you shouldn't look at everything in life as a financial transaction. The relationship between any two people is more than that. It's a human transaction. And I think a lot of times we lose sight of that in the West. So we might think of the guru-disciple relationship as something very special, but really it's just a piece with all of our human relationships. So the relationship between two friends, the relationship between husband and wife, or child and parent. And I think we really have to make all of our relationships sacred again, and not just think that this one particular relationship is sacred, and not view all relationships in that light. So that's just what I wanted to say.
I agree. Anyone that helps us, teaches us, guides us, is kind to us, to be respectful and grateful is the fundamental healthy emotion. And it also is recognized in my place. I need Bernie. I call Bernie for help. I'm making you my guru here tonight, Bernie. If I have that right attitude, it opens up the relationship, because then Bernie is seeing that I've humbled myself and I'm open to help.
Sure, we all need one another. We're all helping one another. So there doesn't have to be a higher and lower in a relationship. A relationship can also be between equals and still be a healthy and respectful relationship. So, I mean, obviously, when you work with people, it goes the same way. It's a human relationship. And there's something sacred in all human relationships. So anyway, so we don't spend the whole 2 hours on this paragraph. Let's move on. Therefore, as the wisdom of realization is acquired on the path of blessing, it is experienced by those who have faith. It arises within those who have veneration and is realized by those who are trained. Diligence is a help in all of these. It is the worthy ones with the highest capability who see wisdom. The minds of those who are only skilled in words can't comprehend it. So the line with the red flashing light next to it is only skilled in words. What's the difference between being only skilled in words and being a genuine spiritual student?
I think as Lance would point out that our greatest teacher sometimes is our experience, and the experience of our the point at which we connect with life and living and each other and our contemplation, and the power in that is that probably because it's ineffable, because the experience is not easy to trap into words, which, when we start using words, then we're starting to fit things into our story, into our projection of life. But if it's, if the words aren't there, then we're just then we're having naked experience, and we're as close to seeing clearly as we can be.
So you're talking about experience in meditation, or more generally?
Experience in meditation and experience when life is like meditation.
So the distinction you're drawing is between experience and merely talking about things. So
talking about things,
there's
reading
the difference
about
between
things,
doing something and only understanding it intellectually. That's the difference.
You got it, Bernie.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think a key element in the paragraph you just read is faith. And
Okay.
sometimes people might downplay faith in Buddhism, but actually it's a strong point. And to have realization, I think you really have to have that inspiration and confidence that comes from faith. And one thing about faith is there's always, like, if you were omniscient, you wouldn't need faith because you'd be omniscient, you know everything. But if you're not omniscient, you've got to have some kind of faith in your higher power or what you're doing or the meaningfulness of what you're doing. I think it's a very key element.
Why do you think it's a key element?
Well, I said a key element, but it's just so important because our mind follows that. And if we have a lot of skeptical doubt or, don't have faith in something, we're not really going to develop in that way because the mind's not following that.
Okay. Anybody else want to say something about the difference between somebody only skilled in words and somebody who has faith and veneration? Or so you're saying that the difference is the person skilled in words may not have faith and veneration.
I disagree with that. I just reread it.
Okay.
The wisdom of realization is acquired on the path of blessing, experienced by those who have faith, that arises within those who have veneration, and is realized of those who are trained. So all those things are necessary.
Right.
But then it said, and diligence helps in all that. But then it says, it is the worthy ones. The worthy ones are the ones that have all those things just mentioned. but the worthy ones with the highest capability who really see wisdom. I think that means they go beyond all those things, those important foundational qualities, and they have some of that predisposition through former training. It's something innate. You know, some of us have gifts. We have gifts in different areas. If you need to have some gift, the capability, you know, I have a good capability for messing with fixing little things. So other people aren't good with that. They're good at other sorts of things. So I need a capability, a talent for the Tao, not just the training, but the talent for the Tao. That's that capability. So it's saying you need capability above and beyond those baseline things. And what I really think of it is, it's about intuition. You know, it's a gift. You know, some people have an intuition for playing games, or just that intuition that they get it real quick.
You
I think it
mean,
applies to wisdom.
you mean talent or?
Yeah, it's talent. The talent for the Tao,
Talent for spiritual.
or realization
practice.
beyond all those gifts that are foundational.
So you think just like some people are skilled at painting and some people are skilled at, let's say, mathematics, other people are skilled at spiritual practice?
And that's the
And
former training.
so good karma from former lives, you think?
I think it's
Training from
about
former lives?
it's about the practice that allows you to make the world work for yourself, whether you're
Okay.
fixing little things or or painting or, you know, doing electric trains. I think they're all capabilities, and they give you they're sort of an infrastructure to build on.
So I don't know, it's just, I can see, obviously some people are going to get to the point quicker, but I'd hate to think that you would go up to this person and say, nope, sorry, meditation is not for you. You're not going to get anywhere because you just don't have the capability to do it.
Well,
I mean-
Bernie, one thing is, I think we tend to take a limited view of this lifetime period as the lifetime period of all things, when it's not.
Mhm.
So that, like, someone might start practicing Dharma in 1850, and by 1975, they're kind of getting the hang of it or something, you know? But there's someone else that started practicing Dharma in 1000 AD, and they've been practicing all this time, and now they're a Lama and whatnot. But it's not like they're innately such a better person. It's just that they're in a different stage of the path, depending on the timing.
Sure. Well, obviously the texts always talk about people of the highest capability versus ordinary people.
But they're just people that have practiced and studied a lot in the past.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, my point of view is that the degree of capability you have really shows in your enthusiasm for the practice. I think if you are enthusiastic to practice, that's a pretty good sign that you have capability, that the capability that we're talking about is the willingness to work hard at it. Not some sort of innate gift. It's that some people, when they meet the Dharma, are going to practice very hard, and other people are just going to treat it as an occasional thing. And that's, in my opinion, that's what they talk when they're talking about capability. That's what they're talking about, that your capability shows itself in your enthusiasm and your willingness to do a lot of practice. But that's just my opinion. I can't justify that from the text.
But also, doesn't that also mean not to be just a flash in the pan? I see a lot of Westerners get into, or Easterners as well, like get into different philosophies and religions. They're very enthusiastic initially. And as time goes on, that enthusiasm withers and withers and withers. You know, and then, you know, it just becomes an afterthought after a while. But I think it's more important that they're willing to do something about it, not just, not just learn about it, but actually put it to use, to helping others, because it's easy, to just show up to teachings, take some notes, and afterwards, BS with a bunch of people, go out and do something, but it's, actually putting, a lot of things that you want to do aside, because, if someone asks a question and I certainly don't have a lot of answers, but, the limited capabilities I have, I try to share with them, and it's, when we're down at the winter teachings this past February down with Drupon, I remember one afternoon he was teaching about Guru Yoga, and one section was about faith. And I remember he had a real long discussion about this, that yes, it's very important to have all these other aspects, the veneration, the training, but he said it's about 60% that we require faith, not just blind faith, but faith in that there's actual evidence when we have faith that our practice evolves quickly, and how deeper it goes as well. It really touched me, because being from the Asian side, that's a big part of the faith, but he really went into in depth on that. And
So could you summarize how he defined faith?
Well, I guess there's a certain word in Tibetan for blind faith, but that's not the faith that he was talking about. The faith that he was talking about was the faith in the teachings, and the faith in the practice, the faith in the sangha, and how that without that particular faith, that our practices, a lot of it's just reading words on a page, that but if we really show that faith and then have that faith, that our practice goes into another level, to a level that can't be taught, that we have to experience on our own or realize on our own. So that was very touching to me.
Okay.
I think I thank you, Tom. I certainly understand what you said, because I was there and appreciate that. And I agree with it. And, I come from a place where, we didn't make commitments to other beings and so on. We didn't have faith in other beings. We didn't have faith in a system, and Christianity or Judaism or whatever. It was a very superficial faith and so on. And early on, I learned, that it was important to declare yourself, to go to someone who you thought, you could learn from, someone who's been to New York, and I want to go to New York. I'm not going to go to somebody who's never been to New York and ask them questions about New York. So if we change New York to enlightenment, or to some degree of realization or something, and find somebody who we think has had that kind of degree of realization and everything, that's the person I want to get. I want to get to know. I want them to get to know me, because it's through that relationship that I'm going to grow, and maybe they're going to grow too. And they wouldn't, and I don't think if they would have faith in that, and I think that's part of the process. And so for me, asking permission to have a teacher, for them to be my teacher, is an integral part of what I've been able to do with myself in my own life. And if I didn't do that, it would be quite a superficial thing. So, and when you look at, some of the films, somebody mentioned, looking at some of the films we've seen, and what, Milarepa did to go to, he went to 3 different teachers that we saw in that film. And each one of those teachers, he did give them some kind of an offering, a financial kind of an offering, a money kind of an offering, something that had value, but he was also giving them his time and his attention and his faith and his love and his practice and so on. And he moved through those different beings to finally get to Marpa. So I think there's a lot to be said about that. It's part of what our ritualistic practice is in Buddhism, part of the structure that is important. And if we think that we can sidestep it, I think it's a huge mistake.
I'm thinking of 12-step programs, and particularly in AA, you need to go to meetings, you need to study the steps, and you need to have a sponsor. And the act of asking for a sponsor is very, very important. There's something about saying, I need help, that opens you up, that allows, and when you make a gift, you take your sponsor to dinner, you show respect and veneration, but it opens you up. And you're recognizing that person has something you need, that you're hurting, you're suffering, sounds Buddhist, and this person can help you. That's really important. It's something about saying, help. Can you help me? Can you be my teacher? That shows respect and veneration.
There's a surrendering to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In this lineage, the Kagyu lineage and the Drikung Kagyu lineage in particular, it's referred to as two things: the blessing lineage and the realization lineage. So being able to take that to heart and contemplate, what does that mean? What does it mean, the blessing lineage? And another thing that this is considered to be the lineage of the yogis. It's considered that, so it's demonstrating that there is these personal relationships, I think.
Okay, well, that's interesting that you brought that up, because the first two lines of this paragraph are, the wisdom of realization is acquired on the path of blessing.
Right.
So we've talked a lot about realization, but we haven't really talked much about blessing. Do you want to say something about what blessing means to you?
Blessing to me is the dualistic nature, the negativity, the confusion for some period of time goes away. When you can be in the presence of someone who has that kind of blessing power with you in your life, you can recognize that, you can see that. And I think that most all of us here have maybe had that experience, to receive that kind of blessing. Now, like I said, it only may be a temporary thing. It fades after a while because maybe my faith fades. And what I need to do is to constantly restore that and so on. And that's part of the process and so on, to be able to do that. But to recognize that being or those beings who have that power of blessing like that, to just transform you just by their presence. That's
Okay.
blessing.
That's a blessing. It's a transformation of your mind through coming into contact with the mind of a realized being.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, somebody else want to say something? I mean, if you have some sort of experience to share, that certainly would be welcome too, if you're willing to share it. Somebody else want to say something about blessing? Like Pete, do you have anything to say about blessing?
For me, it's been a long process, and like I didn't have a snap moment where I just, had some kind of understanding or awareness or anything. It was all just continuous work and effort, and that's just to get where I'm at now. I got so far to go that I know that's what is ahead of me, is all that kind of work and effort and everything.
So what does the phrase blessing of the guru mean to you?
Well, I mean, I get a lot of inspiration from the gurus that we have, and I have that kind of faith because of that inspiration. And so to me, that's the blessing.
So it's the inspiration and faith you get from being in contact with your
Yeah.
teachers. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to say something about blessing and the power of blessing?
Yeah, I think the idea of the Shakti of the guru, the direct transmission energy is probably the highest blessing. And, when we're giving the mantras and giving the secret teaching, these things that are, well, nothing's secret now, but, if we get it, it's precious.
So what
And
do you think
certainly
what do you think that Shakti or energy is really?
Well, the lineage is all about guru to disciple and oral tradition.
Uh-huh.
The whole idea of, it's parallel to the West. Well, anyway, the Catholic Church has the same idea, the apostolic succession, that the priests are ordained, all the way back, all that stuff. It's an idea, it's part of the guru disciple relationship. It's the energy goes back. It's been transmitted. Guru to disciple.
So it's like one candle lighting another.
Yes. I think that's the most important blessing. Lama Google is really great, but it doesn't give me it doesn't light the flame like,
okay.
relationship, where it happens in relationship.
So is this like a thing that happens at one particular moment, or is it a continuous thing, or what?
I think blessings come to me in my relative form continually, and they arise as things begin to make sense, as the experiences and the teachings that I've had over time, combined with my goodwill and whatever little wisdom I have, the pieces begin to come together. And for me, a blessing it implies that there's an opportunity for gratitude, to see how supported we all are in our interdependence and our interconnectedness, and to see how because of that interdependentness, the universe is lifting us up. And we look at another person and we see a representative of he or she that is holding us up and moving us along the bodhisattva path. So blessings come intentionally and over time, and they arise, I think, as we grow, as there's spiritual growth.
So it's a more gradual thing, like the relationship between a parent and a child, I suppose. The parent keeps helping the child, and the child keeps understanding more about how the parent has helped them.
And there's appreciation that's involved, whether that appreciation is global or singular.
So yeah, okay. So it's not like snap your fingers and suddenly get it.
Excuse me, but some people might think it's like that. Some people say that because they've met a particular teacher and they've received their blessing when they took the dorje and put it on their head, they got that blessing, and now they're liberated. Rather than, okay, yes, that was certainly a blessing, no question about it, but you still have to work at that. You have to cultivate that. You have to make that stable within yourself. You can't take that for granted and so on.
Okay.
I like to mention something that could be considered a blessing, but I know that there's been times when certain lamas that I've worked with have told me, do this practice, or don't do this instead. And by following their advice, I had to do a lot of work with that, but it turned out to be a powerful blessing.
Of course.
Whereas if I was just trying to figure things out on my own, I would have been, just
Okay,
swirling around in confusion.
okay.
A blessing
I
can
was-
also, oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh, I
Mark.
was just going to tell a quick
Go
down and
ahead.
dirty story. When I was a little kid, I was an altar boy. And, when I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church, when there was still Latin Mass. And so the altar boys had to be the ones that knew the Mass in Latin. It's like knowing the Tibetan on all the practices. You're sort of important. And you get to be able to do the chanting and wave around the incense or carry the big candles. And so I was on a military base. I think it was probably 1966, 67. It might have been later, but Pope Paul was coming around. He was knighting some altar boys. It's called, being a knight of the altar. So he would come to the churches and give out these little pins, the K of A, and he would provide a blessing. And the expectation was that blessing would be immediately change our lives. Immediately, we would feel different, and we'd want to be priests or something. And I was interested by the experience. There was definitely an energy about a pope, and the energy about the anticipation around that event. But my thought was, does this mean I get an extra sip of wine? Life did not change for me except a little brass pin.
Okay,
But I think the expectation was there that with a little oil and the sign of the cross, that we're saved, enlightened, lifted up. And yeah, I think most of it takes more time.
so Thomas, you were going to say something?
To me, the blessings are the realization of how precious this life really is, and how we are on the path. That we've done something, we've accumulated whatever prayers, devotion in our past to be put on this path right now. And it's a blessing to know that, and to carry on and to further ourselves on this path. And
So
sometimes the guru, well, go ahead.
So the blessing is being able to practice the Dharma.
Yes, and to recognize how important it really is.
Okay.
Because like I said, it can be a flash in the pan, just, oh, this latest fad and this and that, and like this past Sunday, I showed up a little late to Sunday's teaching. And then Kempo turned over to me and looked over me. Glad you can join us.
So he called attention to you. Okay.
Well, but that's the thing. To me, that's a blessing,
Okay.
because that humbles you tremendously as well. But he also noticed that you're there or not. That that's a tremendous. It's a gift as well.
Okay.
It seems to me like he was just saying he's glad you're there.
Or but also he was like, oh, you finally decided to show up, huh?
Okay.
I felt a blessing this morning
Okay.
when Kempo asked me to do the Sambhala practice, the one right after in the morning when we first do Shakyamuni. But I'd take him to the airport, and he showed that he was pleased with me. I felt like he showed he was pleased with me, and he asked me to do that. I felt a little blessing.
That's okay. Okay. So let's just do the next paragraph then, which sort of repeats what we were just talking about. The non-dual realization that worthy of individuals have comes through the blessing of a sublime guru. The Dharmakaya arises in the middle of realization. Non-duality arises in the middle of the mind. Wisdom arises in the middle of the afflictions, and realization arises in the middle of experiences. So we have a lot of in the middle lines here. Anybody want to say why he uses that expression so much?
I think this is really good. This is one of those stanzas that we should really commit to memory, the functionality of what is being said here.
Okay. So what does it mean to you?
Well, I'd have to, put it down, but I'm saying that there's a lot of meat right here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think what it's saying is that our evolution, our growth, our movement on the path happens in the midst of it all. In other words, right now, in the middle of all the shit, in the middle of everything, in the middle of our guru's blessing, and the middle of me, getting in a car wreck or falling down drunk on the street, in the middle of life, it's still there and it comes up in the midst of it all.
Yeah, I'd read this backwards.
Okay.
Start off with, it says, realization arises from the middle of experiences. And what we're trying to do is put ourselves in the position to be able to have experiences, to be on the path and to have experiences of being on the path. And as we do that, those experiences then become realizations. We have an anticipation for it maybe, and then we see what was really leading or what became that realization, or what was a false expectation, because we go through that process too of eliminating things, and we see falsity in this process. We're purifying in this process.
Okay.
So realization and wisdom arises from the middle of afflictions. So what are the afflictions? All those emotions. And the wisdom of going down the wrong path. We learn more from going down the wrong path than we do from just innately going down the right path. We begin to take things for granted when we do that. We think, oh, I've got such a blessing of such a happy life and everything. And we begin to take our good fortune for granted and so on. But the wisdom that arises from afflictions. And then that helps us to be a good guru, not only for ourselves, but for other beings. Because we can help them when we see them, and we shouldn't interfere with them too much. Let people go and do their own thing to a degree, and let them know that you're there as their safety net, so to speak, so that they can come to you and say, well, I didn't get the result I thought I was going to get. And you say, well, yeah, this happened, this didn't happen, and so on like that.
Okay. Anybody else want to say what this paragraph says to them?
It shows a bit of gradualism.
Why do you say that?
First you have experiences, or you have faith, then you have experiences, then you have realizations come out of the experiences.
But it says in the middle of experiences. It's not like first you have experiences and then you have realization, because that would be like the realization was on the far side of experience.
Because it may not be stable.
Okay.
You can have the glimpse. You recognize the glimpse, but the glimpse is not stable. And you have to work at it to stabilize it so it can come in the middle of it. That I think is
That's how you understand it. Okay.
So you understand it. You gotta get it, then you lose it. Then you say, oh my goodness, I lost it. How did I get there? Let me go back, and now let me make it stable.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense?
Well, okay, we're going to have an argument here because I've got a different opinion.
Okay, well, what's your opinion?
Okay, my opinion is that, like I say all the time, or I used to say all the time when I was teaching mindfulness, you don't do mindfulness in order to get something else. You do mindfulness for the sake of mindfulness. You're developing the ability to be mindful by practicing it. So people often practice, I'm practicing today, so I will get enlightened tomorrow or next year, rather than practicing for today. And I think what he's saying here is that when you're doing meditation practice or any kind of practice, you've got to give your full attention to it right now and not do it for the sake of gaining merit for the sake of becoming enlightened later. You've got to do the practice completely and perfectly right now.
Well, for sake of discussion, I don't know where you got that idea. It's not expressed in this paragraph. It's
That's
not
my
talking about that.
interpretation.
It's
I'm
not,
allowed to have interpretations of
well,
my
you are,
own.
but I think you're reading between the lines there.
Okay, so you don't think I'm right? Okay, that's fine.
I think it almost implies to me that this kind of realization, whether it be gradual or immediate, comes best when we bring our whole self.
Yeah.
Today I was reading on Glimpse After Glimpse. It had mentioned about eat when you eat, sleep when you sleep. It's very famous sense saying, be in the present moment. Be in the present moment. So when you're talking, Bernie, right now about, being about mindfulness, yeah, just being right here, right now. Don't think about something in the past. Don't think about something in the future. Be right here, focus right here, right now. And this one, the wisdom arising from the middle of the afflictions. I mean, that really hits at heart, really. I mean, my sons and I were having a discussion about wisdom, they were like, oh, it has everything to do with intellect. I go, it has some to do with intellect, but mostly with realization through experiences. I'm like, you guys are too young. You guys are, 15 and 18, and you just started your lives. You haven't experienced that much. So that's why you haven't acquired too much wisdom. Oh, but I read all these books. I read all these books and I did all these, reports and all that, well, then that means you've gained a little knowledge. You acquired some knowledge. That's great. But knowledge doesn't necessarily mean wisdom. So yeah, it was a very interesting conversation, but like Michael said, we have to live, once we live, we realize. Once we realize, that's when the wisdom really comes out.
I had a karate master. He was very, very traditional Japanese, taught at the university. And he had this picture in his office of him laying on a bed of nails, a cinder block on top of his stomach, and a sledgehammer is about to come down. And I walked into his office one day and I said, tell me how to conquer fear. And he pointed to it and said, you don't think I was afraid? The idea that wisdom is somehow an escape from feeling, that we're just not going to, if we're wise when we don't feel, we aren't human beings, is a big mistake. It's when we can feel and experience the feelings, being wise with them, and get the wisdom that comes from them. Somebody's really troubling me and I'm practicing patience. I'm getting wisdom from the middle of that affliction by that practice.
I think wisdom happens in our response to stimuli, our response to life and afflictions and whatever catches our attention. We have a choice.
What makes the difference between the right choice and the wrong choice?
Well, I think it was Viktor Frankl that said, in between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies the wisdom to make the correct response. So I think the idea is pause. I mean, that was his idea. Just give it a breath.
Okay. Anybody want to say anything more about this? It's like Lance said, I think this is a very rich paragraph, but
Well,
For
that's a
that
nice
reason, it might be
assumption.
difficult to say much about it because it's so
I'll-
profound.
I want to point out, and Pete, I'll come right back, but this goes to the supplication of the seven Taras.
Uh-huh.
If you go read the seven Taras there, that most of what is expressed here in this paragraph is in those seven Taras in that supplication. Go ahead,
Uh-huh.
Pete.
I was going to say that they teach us not to meditate for experiences. Don't sit down and meditate so that you suddenly become omniscient and fly through the sky and so forth. But yogis do at some point become omniscient and fly through the sky, But the way they do that is by focusing on what's there and really penetrating with awareness their whole being of what's there.
Okay. Anything, let's see, how much time do we have left? We have 18 minutes left. Okay. Anybody else want to say something about this paragraph? Okay. Now we got a whole block. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly because these next couple paragraphs all, I think, cover this, go to a single point. It's talking about how experience arises, one realization. I mean, what realization is actually like. The delusion of dualism will completely vanish as when a sleeping man wakes up. On meeting non-dual wisdom, you awake and think, oh, it has been here all along, but I hadn't realized it before. Non-dual wisdom, what a joy. My previous conduct, oh, so shameful. It is realizing and not realizing it is that differentiates from samsara from nirvana. Up to now, before this realization, was like a man who was just asleep and dreaming dreams. I dreamed that I wandered in the ocean of samsara. I dreamed that I suffered in the hells and so on. I dreamed that troubled I turned to the guru. I dreamed that I practiced the instructions. I dreamed that experiences arose in my mind. I dreamed that the luminosity arose as the Dharmakaya. I dreamed that darkness of thought was dispelled. I dreamed that there was no separation between meditation and post-meditation. I dreamed that realization arose. I dreamed that objectless compassion arose toward beings without realization. I dreamed that I attained the supreme Mahamudra and my form kayas arose, spontaneously accomplished the benefit of beings. When you suddenly wake from that sleep, there was no suffering of samsara. There was no turning to the guru because you were troubled. There was no practicing his instructions. There was no arising of experiences in the mind. There was no arising of luminosity as the Dharmakaya. There was no dispelling the darkness of thoughts. There was no remaining in non-thought. There was no arising of wisdom's realization. There was neither beings nor compassion. There was neither accomplishment nor attainment. There was neither beings nor benefiting them. There was neither truth nor falsity. They were nothing but dream appearances. Where did the samsara that you dreamed of come from and where did it go? Where did the nirvana, the elimination of samsara, come from and where did it go? They and everything else were dream phenomena. Where did they come from and where did they go? So it's saying everything is like a dream. Right.
Yeah, because all relative things are not ultimately real. They're not really there. When you have that awareness of ultimate awareness, you can see that they're illusory.
Not only that, it's saying enlightenment and Buddhahood are also like dreams.
Well, I think he's referring to the word enlightenment and the concept and the idea of enlightenment when he says that.
It says, I dreamed that I attained the supreme Mahamudra and that my form kaya spontaneously accomplished the benefit of beings, which is Buddhahood.
Yeah,
So, okay,
to
go
me,
ahead.
to me, he's talking about the stories that we project into our world.
Okay,
You know,
go ahead.
how we explain to ourselves what's going on in our experience, and we explain to ourselves what our role is in that. And that's the complexity of the way we walk through life, is the projection of ourselves into the projection of the world. So
Okay.
once we get a glimpse or hang on to a glimpse and we realize that we and the world are both projections, then the story melts.
So does Buddha know that he's enlightened?
Buddha knows there's no enlightenment and no confusion.
It's
Okay.
described here on page 104 in that second stanza there. When you suddenly awake from that sleep, there was no suffering of samsara, etc. That's the Buddha experience.
Awakening
When
from
you,
the
when you
dream.
can say that you are stable in that experience and stay there, then you are Buddha.
Okay. Okay, so it's a difficult couple of paragraphs for me because it seems to be negating the entire path of practice, saying, oh, you're practicing, but your practice is really nothing more than a dream. So I have a.
Well, that's completely right, because it's all part of the relative nature. That's
But,
all part of mind. What we're
That's our
doing is
experience.
we're transcending mind.
Yeah, but
One thing, Bernie, one thing that always helps me when I do think about that is Nagarjuna said that the actual emptiness is the same as interdependent origination.
Okay, and what does that mean to you?
That ultimately things are not real, but because of that emptiness, everything matters. It's kind of like you could say nothing's there, but everything matters.
Okay.
And
but
with interdependent origination, everything matters, you know.
Okay, yeah, but it seems to be a little bit of a contradiction there to me, Nothing is real, but everything matters,
It matters
I understand
relatively.
that,
It matters relatively,
Okay,
in
okay,
relative nature. It matters.
okay,
But the Buddha is beyond the relative.
right. So
No,
everything
go
is
ahead.
just a dream, but it's not like a dream because it matters, okay, or something like that.
If you had a friend who was sleeping and dreaming and having a nightmare, and you could tell they were having a nightmare, that would matter to you, even though you know they're not falling down a cliff or something. They're just laying on this couch having a nap. You
It's
know
definitely
that,
mattering.
but it still
Definitely
matters what they're going through.
matters to them too.
Okay, yeah, but here's my sticking point. If somebody's having a nightmare, they're being chased by a tiger in the jungle. If I could somehow enter their dream and talk to them and say, don't bother running from the tiger. It doesn't matter if the tiger catches you or not. It's just a dream. So just stand there and see what happens. But I don't think that's the correct way to approach practice. I don't know.
I think we need to run from our tigers.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, actually, there's a story. Well, very brief story. There's when I was at Karma Triana Dharma Chakra, there's a path up a mountain, and Lama Kempa Karta once says, if you walk to the top of the mountain and you see a bear, don't say, I'm an illusion and the bear is an illusion. Because if you say that, you've had it.
Yeah.
So
What is that saying? There is no suffering. There is no cause of suffering. There is no ending of suffering. Meaning what we
Heart Sutra.
what we think in our regular everyday lives. Yes, it may be a dream, but it's certainly real to us. So we're still in that dream. We need
It's
to
our
awaken
movie.
from this dream. Yes. It's our
So,
path
okay,
that we go through.
That's why it's hard for us to look at our life as a dream. We don't want to say my life's not a dream. I'm going through this. I can't give that up.
right. So, no, okay. Obviously, or at least I'm not realized, I can't speak for everybody else here. So knowing that life is how it is just a dream, how should it change the way we relate to our life right now?
With freedom,
Gets a little lighter, I think.
with freedom.
Don't take it so seriously.
And, for example,
I think it's a realization that we're empowered. We create the dream anyway. So with that little bit of realization, we can turn around and maybe edit the dream, maybe augment the dream, maybe turn the tigers into teddy bears.
okay, nice trick if you can do it. Yeah. Well, sure. I always say 90% of the things we worry about are just purely our imagination and never happen anyway. So,
Well, this is one of the 6 yogas of Naropa. This is the dream yoga,
the dream
and
yoga.
understanding the dream yoga and understanding. I've read several books on it, and it's very, very subtle. And I think maybe I've begun to understand it a little bit,
Okay,
but
yeah.
and
There's-
there's a prayer I recite every day, and to help me to get into the to allow myself to sleep peacefully and so on, because I was having problems where I was waking up in the middle of the night, being chased and jumping out of bed and chasing after somebody, running in the walls and stuff like that. I was doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And and it's taken me a long time, years, to work on this.
So what does dream yoga, what do you understand about dream yoga? What do you think it's all about?
I heard Drupon teach it in Virginia Beach about 10 years ago.
And what did you bring away from that teaching about?
Well, I'm a little suspicious that I hardball it down too much, but if you can be awake in your dreams, mindful in your dreams, aware of your dreams, not asleep, if you will, not forgetful, if you're lucid in your dreams and you're able to practice, have a mind to practice in your dreams,
Yeah.
then it's just another step to do it in your waking life. And then that's just part of the process of seeing how waking life is just every bit as much dreamlike as when you're dreaming in sleep.
Okay, but I'm not sure I understand that. But so having what they call lucid dreaming makes you realize that this waking life is also a dream.
I think that's what they're trying to do. I mean, lucid dreaming is what everybody, Western culture calls it and does. But when you're really lucid dreaming, you're not only aware, but when you practice, when you're in a spiritual mind in your dreams, that's really lucid. Maybe it's a different kind of lucidity. And then, but that's if the dream is when you see that the dream is dreamlike, it's not far from being able to see that waking life is dreamlike too.
Okay. Maybe
It's my 2 cents from a weekend.
I haven't practiced dream yoga, so I really couldn't say. So, but how do you think even people who haven't practiced dream yoga yet can benefit from understanding life is like a dream?
Well, I think that fundamentally you got to start by understanding that there's a cycle of dreams that goes on every night. And that the first cycle is just replaying what happened in the day before and so on. And so it's practicality that's coming to bear, and so on. So if there's agitation, there's going to be agitation in that part of your sleep. And that's why sometimes we wake up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we can't get back to sleep because we're too agitated.
Okay.
And then the second part is the dream that we have like at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I'm sorry I'm putting you to bed here, but
No, I'm sorry. I've been up since 4 a.m. So it's
so then we have an intuitive kind of a involuntary sleep or awareness of going into the bardo, of reality. And that's always that mysterious part of the dream and so on that we talk
you mean
about.
between lives or something else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all very, very imagination, very figurative. You
Sure.
need, to figure it out, what does that mean and so on like that. And there can be exaltation that is in that, exhilaration that is in that. There can be terror that can be in there too.
Absolutely.
But so this is a simplification of just saying that there are these two parts of the dream state and so on that we need to first understand. And that what Curtis said before, I think, is what I've come to recognize, what I've been studying myself and so on, is that we learn that we can, through our waking state, we control the dreams. And then the dreams by themselves kind of, for me anyway, it's been ironing itself out through my understanding in the waking life. If I take responsibility for my waking life, then the things that I was having problem with in my dreams have gone away.
Okay.
So they're connected. It's not two different things. It's all connected.
Yeah. Okay. So
But it bears it. And why is it a dream yoga? It's one of the 6 yogas of Naropa, because it's very subtle, very powerful, and needs a great deal of contemplation and work on it for us to be able to master it.
okay. But I don't think he's talking about the practice of dream yoga in these couple of paragraphs. I think he's talking about the illusion of our, everyday life is illusion. That's
Well,
kind
maybe
of-
so. I don't know how we got onto the
It's
dream.
related. It's related to dream yoga.
I don't remember how we got into the dream discussion.
Yeah, I think the point is that dream yoga helps you understand that daily life is like an illusion. But even, let's say, somebody who hasn't practiced dream yoga, is there something they can bring away from these couple of paragraphs that would help them in everyday life? Or not?
I think this is Mahamudra.
Okay.
I think that this is very advanced. And I think that if the fundamentals have not been understood, that this is going to be very, very abstract for them.
Okay, so you don't think this is a teaching for ordinary people? This is just something for more advanced people. So
Yes, I mean, this whole book is that. Yes.
okay, sure.
So
sure.
my point going back with saying that one stanza, refers back to the 7 Taras, the supplication of 7 Taras. We went through. What did we go through? 6 months of that, Tom?
Oh, at
Curtis?
least. I mean,
Where we recited that with Kempo every single day
It still does.
in English and in Tibetan. And everybody was taking a turn with it.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, I was very dubious about it. I said, this is a throwaway, but after a very short time, I realized that this was very powerful. This was really important. This was a vision that Lord Jigten Sumgun had in the Eshon cave, and was very powerful teaching.
And this kind of reminds me of the very end when Ananda Ananda didn't awaken. So one of the awakened ones said there's a wolf amongst lions. So Ananda had to go off to attain enlightenment. And he was on a cliff's edge looking out. And he had been meditating all night. And right when he took out he was very tired. So when he took out his little small, they laid their head down on this little brick, not a brick, but a little thing made out of wood. But he put that down and about to put his head on that, just to rest for a minute. He awakened. He attained enlightenment. And it can be what we hear, what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel. You know, if we've gathered the merits and the wisdom, you know, and if it's going to happen, it will happen, you know. And once we awaken, I mean, the skies are still blue and the trees are still green. I'm sure we'll have a completely different perspective. I mean, what do I know, honestly? I don't know shit.
That was a good dark side of the moon reference to the Dharma there.
Dark side of the, you mean Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah, he was quoting one of the song lyrics from Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, really? I didn't.
What was that? The quote?
All that you see and all that you hear, all you touch and all you feel.
Okay. Takes me back to my college days. Long time ago, listening to that in the dormitory every afternoon. Okay.
I just thinking about the word dream and awaken.
Okay.
You know, the awakened one. That's
Yeah,
a huge
Buddha.
title. And right next to the idea of awakening is the idea of a dream or illusion. And so, you know, it's a really big idea, awakening and a dream. You know, those two words, they kind of pair up. And so, you know, if we're talking about dreaming, like we are in this paragraph, which there's a lot of dreaming, we're going to be talking about awakening. And we're also going to be talking about dream yoga, because right at the core of dream yoga is the dream idea and the awakening from the dream idea. You know, the Buddha is the awakened one. You know, that title is, it's a big title. It's going right to the dream idea. So that's a central idea in awakening. You know, that we're in a dream state. And that's what we need to wake up from, the illusion, the samsara, the maya.
And realization is waking up to the illusion. And well, I don't know if I can, it's 8:30 right now. So I guess it's time to move on from the dream of Wednesday night teaching. So. So whoever would like to say the dedication.
So before we go, so normally we would get together in 2 weeks, July 6th, what happens to be the Dalai Lama's birthday.
Okay.
And I think that Kempo Chopel is going to be at Dharma Surya that day, and there'll be practices and so on. So I'm not quite sure that we'll be able to have our meeting that evening. So maybe we need to go to the next week. And plus the next week or the next leadership is supposed to be done by Adrian. And he seems to be really, you know, occupied with his job right now, and not that he shouldn't be and so on. But we'll have to talk to him and see what's going to be right for him and whether or not he's, you know, we can count on him or we need to move around him right now.
Okay.
Any comments?
If he's up for it, fine. But I think if he's not, it's enough for him to, it'd be nice if he can just keep up with the recording. If he's going through a stressed time, I wouldn't want him to try to feel like he has to lead.
No, I wasn't suggesting that. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, so I think, I'll reach out and talk to him. And, but for the question of whether we meet on July 6th or not, and make it the following week, I guess that would be the 13th. So, should we
Seems
just,
sensible.
why don't we just go to the 13th and take it out of the equation so that we know what we're doing?
And am I after Adrian? I think I am.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll be ready to do it unless Adrian can watch the video from today. I think that's important and wants to lead.
Yeah. All right. And not just tonight's, but the past couple of weeks, because I don't think he's been with us for several times. So
Is that true? I'm not sure. I
not sure.
remember.
I'm not
He
sure.
was here last time. I remember him.
Well,
last
okay.
time, so he was here last
But
time.
this right now is a really busy time for him in December. So, with the trees,
Right.
it's really busy right now. So yeah.
All right. Well, then,
So what are we skipping?
so we're going to go to July 13th for our next meeting.
So we're skipping,
We're skipping the July 6th because we had declared that we were going to do every other week.
Mhm.
So we're skipping the 6th because that's the Dalai Lama's birth date. And there'll be other things going on.
If there's
Doug?
nothing going on, in the evening, would we want to meet?
Well, I don't, there may not be anything going on in the evening, and if we can leave it till we can get a little bit more clarification on what's going to happen on the 6th at Dharma Surya, I think that would be the best thing right now.
I do
Yeah.
know what the teaching's going to be on, Lance.
All right, well, let's discuss it later.
Okay.
All right. All right. By the virtues collected in the
Collected
three times,
times
by myself and all beings, in samsara and
samsara and
nirvana,
nirvana.
and by the innate root of
Innate
virtue,
root of virtue.
may I and all
May I
sentient
and all
beings
sentient beings
quickly attain
quickly attain
unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious
precious
enlightenment.
enlightenment.
May the teachings of the great
teachings of the
Teacher
great
Pa,
Trungpa,
Ratna Shri,
Shri,
who is omniscient, Lord of the
Lord
Dharma,
of the Dharma.
Master of
Master of
interdependence,
interdependence.
continue and
Continue
increase
and increase.
through study,
Study,
practice,
practice,
contemplation,
contemplation,
and
and
meditation
meditation,
until the
until
end
the
of
end of
samsara.
samsara.
Om,
Om,
ah,
ah,
Om,
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 ah, Om,
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 ah,
ah,
Om.
Om.
May my
May
body,
my body,
speech,
speech,
and mind
and mind
become inseparable
inseparable
with the
Body,
body, speech,
speech,
and
and
mind
mind
of all the enlightened ones,
enlightened ones,
for the benefit
for
of
the
all
benefit of all
sentient beings.
sentient beings.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Bernie. That was a great class tonight.
Really,
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good night all.
All right.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.